back to another episode of the Higher Level podcast. So this evening on the show, as always, I've got Higher Level head coach James Doolan, and also joining us tonight for the first time, we have Kieran Malone. Kieran, thanks very much. I know this was like a last minute thing. You've jumped in and sort of saved the day at the 11th hour for us. We appreciate it, mate.
Can't believe it took you this long to get me on, to be fair.
What can I say? The guest list is quite long at the minute. as you've seen by how quickly we lost a guest and we got you on, but we do appreciate it, mate. Thanks for jumping in, obviously. Especially the day we've obviously had the news coming out again for the SNP, so it now looks like we're September 14th have announced gyms opening, and I don't know, obviously it's affecting a lot of people's livelihoods, but I think the other side is it's the fact we've got pubs and stuff like that open, and a pub and social distancing, alcohol and that doesn't really make any sense. So it's obviously impacting you guys. What do you think of the news first and foremost?
I'll let you go first, James.
One of my students actually works for the government. I'll not say his name because they actually got emailed the statement that Sturgeon was going to read out. They get emailed it first thing in the morning, so I think I got to about 9:30 in the morning, and he sent me a message just saying it's going to be the 14th of September. She's going to announce it today, and I'm like, nah, no way. Like, she said August, it'll be the middle of August. Are you sure it's not the 14th of August? And then I've been away at the day. It's my son's birthday day, so I've been away at doing birthday stuff, and then the next thing it's on the car radio until I fucking drove the motor into a wall. I was like, absolute nightmare, man. But it's another 6 weeks. I know a lot of gyms only going to make it this another 6 weeks. I know they're struggling. I'm trying to be positive way and think they've finally got a date to kind of work towards, but it's been almost 6 months now since we closed on the 10th or the 11th of March, so it'll be 6 months by the time we open again. The financial assistance we got was similar to other businesses that opened back up. We got that in April. The businesses that opened back up in April and May, and have been trading since then. It's just, if it wasn't for our students, still some of our students are paying memberships and stuff like that. We get we get 2 months off for rent. Other than that, everything else is to be paid. So by the time we go back, it's 4 months rent, 6 months business rates. All your utility bills are still to be paid. It's an absolute shit show, man. There's so many people losing jobs now as well. With fitness industry's taking an absolute shellacking off it.
It's just what's shambolic about it is like no one's yet to come and give us any reasoning for like why we can't open compared to other places. Like, they keep on saying they're guided by science, but like we're yet to hear what the science is. Like, if they're keeping us shut, they need to give us a reason why they're keeping us shut, rather than just kind of just saying guided by the science but not actually telling you anything.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing as well. You touched on it there. There was some financial aid given out, but now that it's extended for so long, you would have expected some sort of follow-up support because you obviously want to keep the fitness industry going, because we've seen a lot of things posted about how badly this virus affects people with obesity and stuff like that. I think something like 7 times more likely to die from this than you are if you're fit and healthy, or more even.
I think what's mad about the finance thing is like they gave out the grants to some people in the hospitality industry as well, who were like, they were able to open probably a month late. Like, they were only probably closed for a month and then they were able to open for takeaway. Even like pubs and stuff are selling takeaway pints, whereas like most gyms were shut for 3-4 months. Like, we've been able to do stuff maybe the last 4 weeks, like some stuff outdoor, but again, like the restrictions for outdoor training up here was even more like limited than England. Like, in England, when they opened up outdoors, you could train a group of 4 every hour essentially, whereas up here, like, you can only train one group of 4 per coach per day. And we received the exact same money as people who were able to open up a month later essentially. I just think it's madness.
It's a horrendous situation. It has been, but the other thing as well, I don't know if you have been out and about supermarkets and places like that. There is some that are doing it right and some that are doing it well, and it'll be the same across every industry. But you get into some supermarkets and you're like, social distancing almost doesn't exist at times with some of the stuff you're seeing. I some of the reasons he gave for the fitness industry as well, is it no things like ventilation and stuff like that as well?
Aye, but that should be subject to the building you're in. Like, I know Kieran's gym's got a big roller door. My gym's got a big roller door. We've got a front and back door. Like that's all right if you're training in a cave and there's no fucking ventilation and whatever else. But most they're not even going around and inspecting facilities. Like, council know about these facilities. If you're paying business rates and you're applying for changes of use and stuff like that, the council have got all your plans sitting somewhere on a database. So if they've got regulations in terms of stuff like that, there should be certain facilities can open and certain facilities shouldn't be able to open, but it's just a blanket right across the board.
Well, I think that's the problem. They're treating all the facilities as like a kind of chain, like Pure Gym or David Lloyd or something. Like there's a lot more independent gyms probably than there is the big commercial gyms, but they're blanket treating them all the same. Like if we were to reopen, like even before we shut before lockdown, like we do like small group personal training, so it's like maximum 4 people to a coach. So like before lockdown, we had 10 people in the gym. Like if you go in any supermarket, pub or restaurant, you get 70, 80 people in, and they're a lot closer than we would be, even when we weren't thinking about social distancing. Like even when we train, there's probably each member's probably like 100 square metres to themselves. Whereas if you go anywhere else at the minute, you're not telling me if you go to the co-op, everyone's got 100 square metres between themselves.
No, definitely. It would have made more sense for me anyway, just thinking about it. It would make more sense if a gym can show a health inspector how they're going to social distance in their gym and how it will work, and then that allows that place to be ticked off as safety open. That to me would have made a lot more sense, because obviously you've got a big facility, James. You can pretty much social distance in there. Obviously you won't get as many people in. That's just the way it would be. But you would at least get some of your students in. It helps the gym financially as well. But the other thing is it helps the students, because as we've spoke about before, the fitness industry is not just about getting fit for some people. There is a mental health side of things as well, and people do need that, especially martial arts and training in general is a big outlet for a lot of people.
It's a massive thing how it affects people mentally. That's the biggest thing I've seen. Most of the people I know that are kind of dedicated to what they're doing, they're going to tick over with fitness and that. Whether it's home workouts, you've seen everybody buying bikes, everybody's buying equipment and stuff like that, but it's just not the same. And the effects I'm seeing on people mentally is they're starting to struggle. Like I'm getting messages for students and stuff like that, and we're quite openly, we talk about stuff like that quite a bit with our students. And it's not like a one-off either. It's multiple people for different walks of life, different jobs, different ages, and whatever. Just message saying, "Look, I'm really struggling. When's the gym going to open?" Pretty much, and it's been the same kind of standard response. We're waiting on government guidelines, yada yada yada. And I don't think they take into account stuff like that. I reckon it's obviously financial reasons. They can make more money for pubs and industries like restaurants and shit like that than they can for the fitness industry through taxes and whatever else. But they're not taking into account the benefits of getting to a gym physically and mentally has for people. And the uncertainty with everything that's going on now, the unemployment rate's going up. We know a bunch of guys that have lost jobs, are now working different jobs, or working part-time, they're on reduced wages. All that stuff's affecting people, and they've not got an outlet for stuff. And you're seeing it like the first couple of weeks back in the pubs. There's violence everywhere. Everybody's just coming out this lockdown stressed out their nut, went absolute bonkers with the booze, and they're all scrapping with each other or whatever else. And these people making the decisions don't take stuff like that into account.
Like, I think there must be like nobody in the government with any sort of like interest in health and fitness, like to make a decision like that. Because as James was saying, when we started our outdoor training, we got people back in the gym. Like all our guys were saying, like it was more the mental side rather than the physical side. Like they actually enjoy training for. You've got like suicide rates are like rumoured to be up 200%. The phone-in lines for like suicide kind of awareness stuff are up massively, and it's just as if they don't give a toss about it. Like even like your mainstream media and that don't seem to be taking it seriously. Like they had my brother-in-law on the BBC the other night, and like I thought the piece was just a bit parody. Like no one seems to be taking it serious at all.
No, mainstream media coverage is just it's ridiculous, waste of the time anyway. I think sometimes you're better just not even watching it. To be quite honest, I gave up a while ago. I think you were the same, James, apart from maybe keeping track of that.
I gave up. When I get the stuff regarding the guidelines for the gym and stuff, I'll get sent to me. But
that was the first time I'd watched the news, and it must be maybe 5 years or something.
No.
And I was like, this must be a piss take, the way they're covering it.
Nah, it's a joke. But I suppose the only thing is, at least there is a date now. The question now is, do you have the faith that the government holds up that date and that stays in place? That's, I guess, the next question, because I don't really have much faith in things, because generally what they say is going to happen is generally know what happens. So how do you feel about the date?
I've got no faith they're going to stick to that date, to be honest, because like, at the end of the last one, they said gyms will open not before the 31st of August, or sorry, the 31st of July, and then I feel they've just done the same for September 14th, and they'll probably get to September 14th, and then they'll be like, we've had another wee rise, you're going to be put off to October, November, and then, like, the amount of gyms shutting already is unbelievable. See if they leave it that long. Like, a couple of gyms close to us have already shut down, and I've had our members messaging me asking if they can get involved and stuff when we're back open. It wouldn't surprise me if you see 70% of gyms just shutting down already.
Right, I think I've got a feeling what they'll do is they've went to September 14th thing. I think they did put in a note saying that it will be reviewed and could be brought forward to the 31st of August. I think with the backlash that she's going to get, which you're seeing on social media and stuff now, I think once it gets about 3 or 4 weeks in, she'll announce that she's bringing it forward to as if she's doing us a favour. She'll drop the last 2 weeks off and bring it to August, when essentially we've just done under six. It's almost like she'll do that just to make it seem like she's doing you a favour, giving you an extra 2 weeks, because that's what they've done in Ireland, when they brought it forward 2 weeks in Ireland. And it's just like almost to appease you a wee bit, thinking, oh, she's done a great job, she got us like an extra 2 weeks. But people are starting to kind of see through it a wee bit now, and they're angry. You can see it now, like especially the day it's been a wee bit more kind of visceral and stuff than I've seen it before. People are actually really angry now about it. Where it's like us and swimming pools are the last fucking places to open.
I think obviously things like, I see a lot of people online as well. My cousin's involved in this dance studios and places like that for kids. I think they're sort of the same boat as well, aren't they? But we'll see what happens. Hopefully she does bring it forward. It's a political move, but in it, put it back and really annoy people, and bring it forward and hope they forget about how annoyed they were that they're getting it 2 weeks before they. It's just it's an old sales tactic, really. So obviously moving on from that, we just had the Till Whittaker card at the weekend. So obviously there's quite a strong British presence on that. So I just wanted to touch on a few of the UK guys fighting on the card. Somebody that stood out to me that really impressed me was Nathaniel Wood. He was fighting John Castaneda. What did you think of Nathaniel's performance?
You go first, Kieran.
I thought it was good, to be fair. I'm actually glad that's probably the first card I've watched at the weekend, so otherwise I would not have seen any. But I think he was always like a top prospect coming through in Cage Warriors and stuff. Who did he lose his last fight to again?
John Dodson.
Dodson.
I think that was quite a tough matchup from. Like I feel Nathaniel Wood's going to be kind of good enough and well rounded enough to beat a lot of the kind of that low to mid level UFC guys. Like I feel he's probably one of the better UK guys in the UFC, to be fair.
Yeah. James?
Similar, man. I actually thought the other kid gave a good account of himself. I actually expected Nathaniel Woods to probably stop him, but the kid brought it. I know he's for a good gym, he's for Greg Nelson's team and stuff, but Nathaniel Woods just looked a lot slicker than him. He's like a much better version of him. You could see it with him, like he taken a wee while to get a read on his left hook, and then it's like after a while it couldn't miss with the left hook, but his technique was better. He was so balanced and composed. It was a really, really solid professional performance for him against a kind of late notice opponent. But I think the opponent gave a decent account of himself as well. He didn't look as good as he did in the tape I'd seen him and stuff like that. So it was weird seeing Nathaniel Wood open in the card there, because he was on a bit of a rise there. He was getting main cards, and then he's obviously had to set back with Dodson. But Dodson's one of the fighters that can do that to most people. He's just an awkward, tricky wee guy, and he's a very good athlete. But I thought Nathaniel Woods looked excellent. Looked like he's still getting better. He's striking just levels above that other kids. And
the next UK guy up, the first out of three guys fighting from Team Kilbomb was Mike Grundy. Obviously, a lot of hype behind Mike Grundy, but he was going there against Mosfar Evelev. Difficult fight. Obviously, Mike lost the decision in that one. James, I'll let you open this one up. What did you think about Mike's performance?
I thought he looked good up until you can see the bit in it where at first I never really noticed it. When he went for the Darce choke and it failed, it looked like the momentum shifted a wee bit, and I actually thought he's very good at that choke. He's had a lot of, most of the guys in that team are, to be fair. I thought maybe he'd kind of shot his shot there and it hadn't worked, and then he's like he'd nothing to go on it, but then he's came out since then and said his jaw got broke in the first round. And if you look back at the fight, you can see that was more of the turning point when his jaw went. His wrestling entries and all that looked excellent. I thought he probably edged in that first round, and I think he did not get dropped right near the end of the first round. And then the other kid just took over. The other kid was phenomenal. He was brilliant. Some of the stuff he was doing in terms of his getting back to his feet and his hand fighting and stuff like that was brilliant. And then he had that really kind of Eastern European boxing style with a good footwork and a long straight punching, just very, very basic but super efficient. And it was a great fight. It was like 12-1 versus 12-0. Two excellent fighters, and that was the first time I'd seen that kid, and he was brilliant. But it's one of the fights I actually sent to a couple of the guys in the gym, says you watch what this guy's doing with these exchanges and stuff like that. And I felt quite bad for Mike Grundy. I really like him. I know Kieran's quite friendly with him. He wrestled with him and stuff. But I felt quite bad for him. But that guy's going to do really well in that division. So it's no shame Mike Grundy losing to him, and I'm sure he'll be back stronger.
Yeah.
It was probably the fight I was most looking forward to in the card, to be honest, just because I've wrestled with Ken and Mike since we were both young. I thought it was a really good fight, to be honest. Like, I think both of those guys will be really hard to beat in that featherweight division. I thought Mike's wrestling looked really good, but I think the difference was that the Russian guy's composure. Like, he never panicked. He was always very relaxed. He was getting up off the takedowns well, and he's just clinical with the jab and stuff. But like, you can see both guys like are going to be hard to beat for any of the featherweights in the division.
Yeah, and obviously that was a big moment as well when Mike had him in the choke. Because I don't know how close you felt that was. Did you feel that was pretty close?
I thought it was done. Like, when we were watching the fight live, I think a couple of minutes before I said to Barry when we were watching the fight, I was like, Mike's got a good kind of Bravo and Anaconda game. Like, I'm sure he won like the European no-gi, like pretty much submitting everyone with that. So when he got it, it looked finished, but your man done well to escape it.
The escape was special as well, man. To be honest, he escaped that with his foot. If you look at it, he cleared his leg with his foot. You can see his grimace in there. It's not far off. And I've not been. I can imagine Mike Grundy squeezing your neck like that. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world. He's an athletic dude. But the escape was brilliant. He's obviously repped that, because that's not something you improvise with on the fly. It looked like he's been in that position a few times, and he got his sell at it.
And I guess that speaks to what you said there, Kieran, about his composure, because he certainly need to be composed in that situation. Like,
it just looked as if he could have fought for like 50 minutes or something. Like, he just never seemed to like get tired or like even kind of get out of second gear. Like, everything was just super composed, super relaxed.
How this happening? Is it? You can answer this for me. Obviously, like you see, Mike had him that choke. It looked very close, and then it was like you said, James, it was a beautiful escape. How this happening? Is it when you get somebody in something you know you're really good at, and you just can't get them finished with it?
I was talking to somebody about this today, actually. It's similar when I fought in Japan. I'd hit the guy. It was the first round with the Japanese guy I was fighting, and I dropped him with this right punch, like right down the middle of a wee cross, and it was just off a wee fake hook. And I couldn't have landed the punch any better. It was right on his chin. And up until that point, anytime I'd hit people with that, I'd got rid of them in Thai fights, kickboxing fights, and MMA. If I'd landed that shot, the fight was done. So I hit the Japanese guy with it, and I've said this before. I've walked over. He's lying flat on his back. I've walked over and looked down at him, thinking, I didn't even think that I was going to do a walk-off KO type of thing. And I walked there and looked at him, and he just winked at me, and I was like, oh, fuck, he's still here. And I remember thinking, I was like, I can't hit him any cleaner than that shot. And he's just took it flush, and he's trying to bait me to get down into his guard, and he's a much better grappler than me at this point. So I was like, right, I'll let him back up, and then he's get back up, and he's shot. I've sprawled. I've punched him again. For some reason, I shot a double leg, and about 30 seconds later, I was on a heel hook. But there was that moment in the fight where I was like, I've done this. I've came to Japan. I fucking knocked this guy out. The last guy to knock this guy out was Jens Pulver. I've done it. I've knocked him out in the first round. And then he's just looking at me, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, and everyone just went to shit. Then I started shooting. I started trying to wrestle with the guy. I fell to bits, man. But it's a real thing, that, man. You can see it. You see it sometimes with Conor McGregor when he lands that left hand. With Diaz and stuff like that, you can see it in his eyes. It's like, hey, that's my move. And he's done so many people with it, and it's fell short. You're like, oh fuck. And if you're experienced enough there and smart enough, you'll brush it off. You're like, right, I'll get it the next time, or I'll get something. At least I'm landing it. But if you've not got that maturity, it can definitely affect you. And that was my kind of recollection that happened to me was that time in Japan. Whereas if it happened maybe 4 or 5 years later, I'd be like, oh, I've landed it, I'll land it again, and I'll get something else. But it's a big thing, man. It's a real thing.
I don't even think it was the choke that was the disheartening part in that fight, probably, for Mike. I think it was like the takedowns he was hitting. Like, he probably hit 6 or 7 takedowns,
and he bounced straight back up.
He just bounced straight back up. And coming from a wrestling background, like, there's nothing worse when you're taking people down multiple times and they're just bouncing back up, because like the energy expenditure for you to take them down is quite a lot, but it's not for them to get taken down. So when they're popping back up relatively fresh if they do it right away, whereas your energy bar's just getting lower and lower. So after that 5th or 6th takedown, when the guy gets back up, you're thinking, just stay down. So I think that was probably more disheartening than the Anaconda escape.
Sorry, on you go, James.
There's stuff there he'll learn from, I think, because we were talking about this as well, Kieran, that when you get the takedowns, you're using these, we refer to as wrestling grips, and then you need to change to jiu-jitsu grips to control a wee bit more in the ground, and he wasn't doing it. And Kieran, actually, we spoke, I think it was the day after, and Kieran was like, I wonder if they just spars with big gloves on all the time, because you can't get the proper grips with a boxing glove. And a lot of gyms will spar quite heavy, and they'll use a boxing glove, which kind of limits how you're placing your hands and how you're gripping and stuff like that. And it made kind of sense, but I'm sure he'll go away, and he's got like a really good coaching staff and that there, and he'll just look at like, this is how you're getting the takedown. When you get the guy down, you're going to have to adjust these grips so you're holding him down instead of allowing him to kind of move back up, or you're going to have to look at how he's hand fighting and stuff like that and move to different positions. But it was, like I said, it was such an interesting fight. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from both sides from it.
Yeah, and just moving on to probably one of the most controversial moments in the card, so you'll probably know where I'm going with this. Jai Herbert making his debut against a veteran in Francisco Trinaldo. The fight itself, I'll get your thoughts on it. I felt Jai Herbert was doing really well. He looked really good. I thought he was actually ahead in the fight up to that point where Trinaldo caught him. And then that led us into, obviously, Herbert went down. At that point, it looked like the fight was over, but there was a bit of a stalling moment where Trinaldo stopped and the referee didn't step in. And then we obviously had Dan Hardy, and you could hear it clear as day just due to the fact there was no crowd. Dan Hardy was getting quite animated. And then obviously a bit of an exchange between the ref and Dan, and then the following stuff that ensued in social media. So give me your thoughts on the fight, and then the stoppage itself. Do you feel it should have been stopped straight away? What do you think?
I tell you what a tough debut that is to get for anyone in the UFC. I think Ronaldo's one of these guys that's really, really good, but like he's not got that massive name. But it's just a tough fight for you. I actually thought Jai Herbert was doing really well. I think I've maybe had him edging the fight before he gets clipped, which was a good performance up until that point. But the stoppage was just terrible, though. Like, when he's going down, like, you can see it's over. It's one of these ones, like, I think Herb Dean should know at that point it's over. And I feel like he makes the situation worse. Like, see if he just comes out after the fight in that interview and just says, I've made a bad call there. Like, it probably gets brushed over. But it's kind of the fact he tries to defend it a wee bit and make out as if it wasn't a bad stoppage. But I think if he just said, I maybe got that one wrong, there wouldn't be so much of a kind of uproar about it.
Yeah.
I think Kieran's kind of nailed it there, I think. And the UFC's got a habit of doing this. See if you're the champion somewhere else, like Herbert was a Cage Warriors champion, they don't get you an easy debut fight. Like, they'll throw you in straight away. And Ronaldo is one of the hardest debut fights you can get in that division, to be fair, because he's not got a massive name value, but it wasn't that long ago he was on an 8-fight winning streak. And at lightweight, he's beat guys like Felder and stuff like that. I was at that fight. He's tough, man. He's so tough, it's unbelievable. He doesn't get flustered. You can see him in the bad spots there, thinking his way out. He hits super hard. He looks like an absolute beast in the clinch. He's one of these strong guys. And he's so experienced. I think he's got 22 UFC fights. And to get that as your debut, it's a tough one. And then Herbert looked good. He looked a wee bit jittery earlier, I thought, but then by the time he actually got knocked out, it looked like he had everything sussed out. He had his timing down, he looked excellent. And then he's just at that one shot, which is, it's the difference between the UFC and Cage Warriors, unfortunately, especially with a guy at Ronaldo's level who's done that to. He's done it to a lot of guys, man. I think he was on a 2 or 3 fight winning streak going into that fight. And he never loses big, Ronaldo. He always loses by a wee bit. And he's just a hard man to fight. I think he also missed weight, which didn't help, and he's now going up to welterweight. But the stoppage was late. Like, you can see Ronaldo standing there, him know what to hit him. And you can even see when he does hit him, he's not hitting him full pelt there, he's touching him with the last 2 or 3 punches just to force the referee to stop the fight. It was just a weird situation. I think if there was a crowd there, you wouldn't have heard Dan Hardy shouting. I think Herb Dean shouldn't have bothered getting into a back and forth. It just looks unprofessional for the whole promotion, to be honest. And then the two of them going at it on Twitter and stuff like that doesn't help, because they're going to have to work with each other. The guys will see each other at events and shit like that. But you can see kind of Dan Hardy's point. I think Dan Hardy knows Jai Herbert are from similar area and stuff like that, and being a former fighter, you don't want to see that happening to young up and coming fighters. You don't want to see it happen to any fighter, to be honest. But Herb Dean came out and trying to justify it doesn't help.
No, I don't think Herb. I think Herb should have just left it alone, or let UFC team just come out and say, I got that one wrong. I'm human. I make a mistake. And I think people are a bit more forgiving when you do that. And obviously, we're talking about tough debuts. Reece McKee, 6 days' notice, coming in against Chimaev, who's an absolute monster. Obviously, it didn't go Reece's way, but I think we spoke about it before, how difficult a matchup it was for him. But I think the consolation for Reece is he gets himself in the UFC. It's probably a fight not a lot of people expected him to win, but now he's in there and he's getting into the promotion. So, any surprises in that fight for you, James?
Being honest, not really. I think if he had more time to prepare, I think if he had more time to prepare and stuff like that, it would have been different. That guy looked special, looked really, really special. But at the same time, Reece is in the door now, man. He's signed. He'll have another 3 fights, I'd imagine, and he will win fights there. It's a hard debut, man. And the UFC are so desperate to push this guy. I bet a lot of people wouldn't have took that fight, and it kind of speaks volumes to Reece's confidence and stuff like that, and his kind of mentality as a fighter that he did take it. And I look forward to seeing him fight again with a full camp and everything the way it should be for a professional fighter instead of a 6-day notice. Like, he would have had a nightmare there with 6 days getting packed and getting shit covered to go away and all that stuff. But the Chechen boy's special, man. We said this before. We'd heard rumours about him as an amateur. People had been starting to talk about him, and it turns out everything that's been said about the guy seems to be true so far.
Yeah,
Jeff, I think you're never going to get a tougher UFC debut than that. I don't think. Like, I think that Chimaev is probably my new favourite fighter. I think I've went and watched all his fights since then. Like, I can't see many people in the division beating him. Like, and I can't see many people, like, fair play to Reese for taking the fight, because I can't see many people want to take that fight now. I think they're going to find it really hard to get him matched. Like, if you're a top guy, you're not wanting that fight. He's like a more aggressive Khabib. He's got the potential to, like, mug you right off and make you look terrible. I can't see who would want to fight him next.
Aye, well, apparently he was over in Ireland looking for Conor McGregor at one point, so there's that as well.
It's a good job he didn't get in. He'd have a big Charlie Ward to deal with, Conor's security. The next fight will come is obviously Paul Craig was fighting in the card. Paul Craig was going in there against Antigolov. Good win for Paul Craig. Again, that triangle choke, it seems to work for him pretty well. What did you thoughts on the fight?
I tell you what, James, I'm fucking. Like, why would you take him down? Like, I don't understand, like, the fight IQ here. Like, if you're fighting Paul Craig, he's got like a good triangle and a good guillotine. You need to watch out for him, and your man just dive right into it. I could not believe what I was watching.
Right. You could see Paul working on it, and it just seemed like once it was down there, it was a matter of time. Yeah.
You knew it was coming.
And I mean, is he getting the most triangle wins in that division, or he's sort of up there anyway, isn't he, Paul?
He might have the most in the UFC, to be fair. Either be him, maybe Sass, or maybe Sass actually.
Like, he must be getting up there for, like, the most bonuses now as well.
Aye, that's it. Aye, it's not a bad night when you can go out there and then get that bonus as well. I think in terms of what it does set up is, obviously we had Shogun Hua and Little Noggin, the fight. That was sort of their trilogy fight. Shogun Hua won that. You think this probably sets us up then for the rematch, Paul and Shogun drew? That would seem the next logical fight, no?
I think Shogun mentioned them actually in the post-fight thing, so I would imagine so. Like, the draw was a draw, so they could definitely do it again. I think Paul does what he does again. Maybe shock him, jumping on him quick. He can get ahead of him again there. If he can shut down his wrestling and maybe impose his own wrestling a wee bit, you wouldn't be surprised if he catches Shogun. But I think that he must be wanting a better name now. I think that's him got 5 wins in the UFC, so he must be wanting somebody with a bit of, like Shogun, who's got a bit of name value, or somebody pushing towards the top 15 or something. I think the Russian guy there was tailor-made for him. He's a short guy who has to come forward. If you look at his fights, he rushes everybody. I think he had 17 first-round stoppages, but he's that hyper-aggressive way, and it just played right into somebody with an exceptionally good guards game. And the triangle, actually, you can see that he changes grips and makes a couple of adjustments there. And it was like just perfect jiu-jitsu that caught the guy. But I think he should, like, he'll be wanting big names now. He's not want to fight these guys. Nobody's interested in that Antugolov guy. He's coming off losses and stuff like that. He'll be wanting these bigger names. And I think that's what he's probably going to get if they get Shogun again.
You'd back Paul probably beat Shogun at this point.
Yeah.
I think I said this to you like a while ago, James. I feel Shogun and Lil Nogueira are just like a cops at this point. Like, I feel when we watched John Jones v Shogun in New Jersey like 9 years ago, he was done. Like, I'm still shocked he's fighting at this point.
I thought Nogueira won that fight as well at the weekend. If you watch it, I think Shogun lost. Yeah. But you want that name on your record, but because he is like a legend, obviously. But
the name value never goes.
Yeah, it is like the ghost, the Shogun.
But there's a catch-22 with that name value for Shogun. He's going to be that gatekeeper where he's going to be getting put against these young animals they're looking to build off the back of him. So it doesn't get any better the longer you stay in the promotion as a legend. Potentially starts getting worse because you're fighting guys that haven't got massive names and are monsters.
That's generally what happens to them all. You go back through any of them, BJ Penn, Chuck Liddell. So they peak and then they keep them about for too long for people to build their name off.
The UFC are ruthless with it as well. They don't really kind of care much about them. Like, they'll use them to the point to put other people over. Like, that legend status doesn't kind of get them any favour for the UFC looking after them. The UFC will happily fire them in there to get them shot down by their new young guys.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, for the UFC, apart from a select few fighters, it's not about the fighters, it's about the three letters, the UFC. So getting old in the fight game isn't always a great experience, unfortunately. And obviously heading the main card again, another UK interest, the third guy out. Oh, sorry, no. Do you know what? I never
I'm going to dig you up about this missing Tom Aspinall.
Tom Aspinall, aye. I was just got. There wasn't much a fight to watch. He finally got to make his debut, 45 seconds, and he certainly made his debut anyway. He was impressive, and he went in there and done exactly what he needed to do. Kieran, what do you think? And Tom, it was an impressive win. He done very well in there.
I think he's going to do very well. He moves like a lightweight. He's absolutely rapid. You can kind of tell he's done a bit of boxing over the Fury camp, just like he's kind of like got that hucky, jerky kind of hands down, kind of rangy kind of style. Everyone comes like whipping up. I think he'll do really well. Like, I think a lot of the heavyweights are going to struggle to deal with that level of athleticism. So all the big guys are quite slow up there. I think his dad's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt as well. Yep. So you've got to imagine he'll be pretty good on the deck and stuff as well. Comes from a good camp. I can see him doing pretty well in the UFC against any of the heavyweights, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of heavyweight division, if there's a division in the UFC, you can go in and make a couple of statements, and you're right up there near the top. It is the heavyweight division. We'll obviously come to the co-main event in a minute, but James, I'll just get your opinion on Tom's performance.
Tom's actually a black belt as well, but I thought it looked excellent. When he was on the podcast, he kept going on about this, how he used to take fighting so serious, and then the time he spent with Tyson Fury, it changed his mentality, and he was so much more relaxed and putting less pressure on himself, and you could see that in the fight. He looked loose walking in. He looked loose, like for a UFC debut and stuff like that. He looked super relaxed and calm. And then the first mistake that boy made, Tom's got him out of there. And it was just it's like a real kind of reflection on the guy's ability. And what Kieran said, but a lot of the guys don't move anything anywhere like that. And the big thing for me is, I think he's 26 or 27. And at heavyweight, that's a baby at heavyweight terms. They guys are all mid to late 30s. I think he's going to be in the UFC for a long, long time. And I think, when he was on the podcast, he talked about not being in a rush. So if he just takes his time and gets the right fights and builds up, and he'll be financially more secure now, he can train harder, he can do stuff like that. I think he could be a genuine title challenger in maybe a couple of years' time. Yeah,
the only thing with that, the no rushing statement, is because the heavyweight is so bare at the minute.
Shallow.
It kind of always has been one of the shallower divisions, but when you get a guy with that level of talent and he's winning well and not finishing guys, you naturally just get pushed through. So that could be the only thing. And the other heavyweight fight I wanted to quickly talk about before we go into Till Whittaker actually is Verdum and Gustafsson moving up now. The last time we've seen Verdum was against Olenek, and I think that's probably the worst Verdum we've ever seen, if I'm not mistaken, from my memory. I thought Gus would win this, and I thought it would be not comfortable, but I thought he had enough going on what we've seen from Verdum the last time. But obviously that's not how it went. Verdum get the submission in the first round. What did you think about how Verdum looked versus the last time we seen Verdum against Olenek?
I just think, like, when he fought Olenek, he'd been out of the cage for 2 years at that point. He looked out of shape, whereas I felt he looked in better shape here. And I think people forget Verdum's probably like one of the top 5 heavyweights of all time. Like, he's got to be up there. Like, he's won belts everywhere, really, and he's got some big wins. It's a tough fight for Gustafsson to come into the division with. Like, there's not many heavyweights that are going to be able to grapple with Verdum down there. And to be honest, I think, see Gustafsson kind of talking about being done, I kind of think once you start to think that way, you've already one foot out the door. So I don't know kind of where he's at mentally with fighting at this point as well.
Yeah.
I think Gustafsson's probably seen Verdum's previous fight and thought, I could knock him off here. And he's got name value, like Kieran was saying. I think maybe in top 3 heavyweight all time. He's got wins over Fedor, he's got wins over Cain Velasquez, he's been a champion everywhere. He has to be in the kind of argument as the best heavyweight ever. And I think Gus has probably seen that last fight and thought, I could just box his face off. He's known for having good takedown defence and stuff like that. And I think Verdum's came in highly motivated. I don't know if it's because it was the last fight in his contract he's talking about going elsewhere now, whether it's Bellator or ONE FC or whatever. But Verdum came in proper trained, motivated, and it looked night and day compared to the previous fight. And I think with Gustafsson, I think he's had 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out the door for a long, long time now. I think even way back with the Rumble fight and the second Jones fight and stuff like that, because he just seems like he had that right good run up until the Jones fight, and then it's like the wheels have just kind of fell off a wee bit. He had a good performance against Glover Teixeira and stuff, but it's like a one fight in a group of 5 or something. But I actually picked Gustafsson to win as well.
He did look good. He looked good in the feet though. Like, I still thought he looked good standing up. He was moving relatively well, and that's just like when you get down in the ground with somebody as good as Verdum. It's a hard thing for you.
Yeah, do you think it was then a measuring stick for Gustafsson, a heavyweight measuring stick? If he felt he could get through Verdum, then potentially can make a run at the belt. And losing to Verdum, I don't know, he has spoke about retirement a lot, and I think once a guy's saying that more than one occasion, I think it is potentially time to be done, especially if you're staying up at heavyweight when you've got some of the monsters up there who can put the lights out fairly quickly.
I think so, man. I think he probably thought if he came in and took out Verdum, he's maybe 1 or 2 fights away for the title. And it's just kind of not materialised for him. I don't know what he'll do now, if he'll fight again or he'll maybe take a step back in competition for him and stuff like that. But at this point, I can't see him beat. He's not going to beat Stipe. I don't imagine he'd beat. He's not going to beat. He's already lost to DC. I wouldn't even pick him to beat Francis Ngannou at this point. I don't know.
And is he going to be motivated to go back and fight these random guys to build himself back up as well? At this point, probably not.
And some of the random guys in heavyweight as well, it's a dangerous division to be in. Although we're saying it's pretty shallow, it is just for the size of the guys. It's a very dangerous division to be playing about in.
Aye, definitely. I'd pick Tom Aspinall to beat him just now. Like, if I've got Gustafsson stays up at heavyweight, I think Aspinall boxes his head off.
Stylistically, that would be, I think it would be a horrendous matchup for Gus and a great matchup for Tom. Yeah. And I personally, I don't think it's one we'll see anyway. I think it might be time for Gustafsson. So that kind of takes us on to the main event. So Robert Whittaker, Darren Till, obviously went the distance. There was a notable moment in round 2. It was the oblique. It was round 2, the oblique kick, wasn't it? Whittaker, I don't even think knew he had injured Till on that. Thoughts on the fight and the performance for both guys?
Go first, Kim.
I thought it was a good fight. Very tactical. Thought it was a bit like a chess match. You could tell they were thinking about it, and they were both very respectful of each other's game. I thought the scorecard was probably right. I did think Whittaker did win 3 rounds to 2. I just think Whittaker's ability, like, he was kind of able to mix up, like, kind of getting the takedowns, even if he wasn't getting the takedowns, just using it to close the distance, kind of push him to the fence, land strikes and that off it. I think his variety and versatility probably like won the day, whereas I thought Till he was just happy to kind of try and keep it long. I actually thought Till was a bit more patient than normal. I thought he could maybe do being a bit more aggressive. Like, I think Till sometimes struggles with that blend of being, he's either too patient or he's steaming right in. And I kind of think if he could get a good mix of that, he'd have been more effective in that fight.
Yeah. James?
I scored at the same, 3-2 to Whittaker. I thought Till looked excellent, but I think it's the best he's looked. And I think actually Whittaker's maybe the best guy he's fought to date as well. Like, it's a former champion. I think Darren can probably go away and use that as a measuring stick and start to maybe realise that if the cards fall right on the night for him, he can easily be a middleweight champion, I think. I thought he looked, like Kieran was saying, that was the best I've seen him look a wee bit more composed and stuff like that. I thought his head movement was much better than I've seen it before. The only thing missing from a technical point of view was he wasn't punishing the guy when he was making him miss. He wasn't coming back with something when he was making him miss. And I think if he adds that in, then he's going to be a lot more dangerous and stuff like that. But it was a very good fight, actually. I thought Whittaker would have been far too much for him. We talked about it before.
Yep.
I knew Till always has a chance just to outpoint him or maybe catch him, but I thought Till looked excellent. You can see he's still progressing. The last two performances at middleweight with Gastelum and now Whittaker's, he's been completely different from how he looked at welterweight. But I think if he gets on point with these, when the guy's missing and he's using that head movement, if he's coming back with something and punishing the misses, then he's going to cause even Adesanya and stuff like that more problems.
I thought Whittaker's jab was very good, actually. Like, I feel that's the best of his jab. Look, I think he was a bit more patient than normal. I felt in the Adesanya fight, he was just kind of rushing in from distance, whereas then he was using his feet and stuff a bit better than coming in with the jab. I was actually surprised. I thought Till would have won. And it was more, obviously Till's very good, but Whittaker, after having that fight with Adesanya in 2 wars with Romero, I was kind of more thinking, like, how much do they have left? But he's obviously got plenty left in the tank. I say that's probably one of the best he's actually looked.
Do you feel Whittaker would probably rush onto Till's left hand?
I just thought he'd overcommit at some point, and even if he didn't get stopped, I just thought Till might hurt him.
He does that. Whittaker's known for that. He blitzes in, he runs in with 2 and 3 shots, and he's probably not done that because if he did it and walked onto Darren Till's left cross, it could have been the end of the night from that. That's how he get done with Adesanya, just running at him, trying to shut that distance and stuff. And he's probably learned for that. I kind of wish he would wrestle more, because he used to put it together a wee bit more and blend everything. When he was training his wrestling stuff, he looked a lot more efficient. And he kind of resorted back to the wrestling later on. I think it was fairly close in a couple of the rounds, and you could see he switched to takedowns in the 5th round, maybe just to edge around and stuff. I'd like to see him do more of that.
Well, he qualifies for the Commonwealth Games for wrestling, so I don't know why he doesn't use it more.
Yeah.
The oblique kick thing, would have definitely changed things. So Darren Till's probably fought more than half of the fight with one leg. If that, you could see actually, I think he actually says to Colin Hearn, he can't bounce. He can't get that spring in his step that he usually has. So he's ended up being a wee bit more flat-footed, and I don't know if that's maybe accounted for the head movement. If you can't be moving your feet, you're going to have to move your head. And if you're moving your feet, you don't really need head movement. If you're planting your feet, you need head movement. I think that's why we've seen that. But that's a serious injury. If he's done his knee like that, the way he's saying it, will be a wee while for him to come back. And I know they're talking about, I think he'd mentioned about how it should be banned and stuff like that, but you're allowed to heel hook me on the ground and rip a heel hook on. You should be allowed to do those straight line kicks to the knee.
I think as well, I've got to say, I think when he said it should be banned, I think there was a bit of sarcasm involved in that, because I'm pretty sure he's used that technique as well. I can't mind who it was he used it against.
I think it was Stephen Thompson, wasn't it?
Aye, that's right. Aye, and I think Stephen Thompson had said something kind of similar. But so moving on, we've got another card obviously coming up. This one actually, we're back at the Apex in Las Vegas, so no Fight Island for this one. So we'll just run through the main card on it. Obviously, we've got Scottish interest on the card. Joanne Calderwood at co-main event. But the fight kicking off the main card is going to be Trevin Giles versus Kevin Holland.
What is absolutely honking, by the way.
We'll make the best of it. Trevin Giles, Kevin Holland. Give me a technical breakdown of that one, Kieran.
I know absolutely nothing about any of these guys. I genuinely couldn't tell you anything about them.
Kevin Holland, I've seen him fighting a few times. Trevin Giles is not ringing any bells. As always in the Higher Level podcast, we research in depth these cards, as you can see. We take it very seriously.
I'm just going to throw on that I get invited on last minute. But even if I researched that, I would not have bloody researched whether Kevin Holland and fucking Ashley Giles, whatever he's called.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll probably know a wee bit more about this one. So we've got Bobby Green and Lando Venata. Obviously, Bobby Green, he just come off a win against Clay Guida. And actually, the last fight he lost was against Francisco Trinaldo. And he's fighting Lando Venata.
That's a good fight. Good fight. That's a rematch, I think, as well. Is that right?
Let me check.
I think they've fought before. I like Banata, man. It's the only problem I think sometimes is he looks like he's at the wrong weight class. He looks pretty small for that weight class, and Green is a big athletic guy for the weight class, which might cancel out some of the kind of technical superiority that I think Lando Banata's got.
Yeah.
I think randomly when I was in Brazil, one of the guys we were training with was meant to fight Bobby Green, so like I was mimicking Bobby Green for fucking 2 or 3 weeks or something. I think it's a good fight. I think both of them are like unpredictable. Like Banata's got some unorthodox striking, and Bobby Green is just an absolute mentalist. So I think James hits the nail on the head. I think Bobby Green's a bit bigger and a bit more athletic. So I'm probably just going to give him the edge on that. But I think this fight's got potential to be bananas, because I think both of them are very unorthodox, and can kind of I don't think they know what they're going to do. Never mind their opponent knowing what they're going to do.
Just to touch on they did fight before. That was on the UFC 216 Ferguson Lee card. Banata won that fight, and it was that was a loss declared, a split decision draw. That'll explain the rematch then. I can't really remember that fight, but it'll either be Lando, maybe it'll probably go to points again, I think. It'll either be Banata and just landing more, or Green will maybe land some heavier stuff and chuck a wee bit of wrestling in there as well. I would like to see Lando Banata get the win, because if you look at who he's fought in the UFC, he's the guy that came in actually and fought Ferguson his debut, and he took a round off him, I think, and gave him a shot. And it's like the UFC's kind of never forgot that and just kept feeding him fucking monsters. But I wouldn't be surprised if Green does exactly what Diakese done to Vieira and just be a better athlete than him, bigger, stronger athlete.
I think the training can make a difference. I think Banata comes from like a more kind of stable training camp. I think Bobby Green's got like potential, like they're not like just sleeping with, like ends up homeless and sleeping in his car and stuff and not training for fights. I think depending on like kind of what training they've had can make a difference as well.
Yeah, it should be a fun fight though. Obviously, the next fight coming on the card, this is an interesting one. So Randy Brown's going to be fighting Vincenzo Luque. Randy Brown's he's coming off a couple of wins against Varley Alves and Ryan Barberena, but he beat Mickey Gall, but he's lost a few fights as well. Nico Price, Belal Muhammad, and that's a tough matchup to begin into against Luque. It's a very difficult fight for him, I feel. What do you think on that?
I think Luque's going to absolutely tonk him, isn't he? Luque is probably one of my favourite fighters in that division. I think he's got a bit of everything, very dynamic in the feet, good grappling and stuff as well. Like he's going to stop this guy in the first round, isn't he?
There is a likelihood. I mean, they've got a common opponent. Obviously, Luque, his last fight was against Nico Price. The doctors had to stop that one. And Randy Brown, he lost to Nico Price. Luque has got a few losses in his record, but when you look through who he's fought, I mean, he's fought some extremely top level guys. So you would fancy Luque for this one, I would think.
I think it'll be quite a good fight, that one, actually. I think Randy Brown's pretty confident in it. And he's going to play right into Luque's hands, but I think he can give him the striking match that he wants. And I don't know if he'll be able to keep up with him. That may be probably the best. Luque doesn't have boring fights, but it might end up being probably the best fight on the card. I think that one, but I'd imagine Luque wins it. I'm like Kieran. I think he's underrated. I think he's an excellent fighter.
Is he ranked, Luque? Like I feel he should be top 15, top 10. No.
He was top 15 at one point.
Try to look, because the problem he's had is he wins and then he'll go in against the likes of he beats Mike Perry, but then he gets put against Stephen Thompson and loses, so his ranking does bump up and down.
I just feel if you're a good 170 in the UFC, like you're not looking forward to fighting Luque, really.
No. And I think the thing with Luque as well, you got to remember, he was on a good winning streak. What was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He was on a 6-fight winning streak before he fought Stephen Thompson, and obviously lost there. Then went back in and he beat Nico Price for the second time. So I'd need to check that. I think he might be top 15. Anyway,
I think he is.
Nico Price is good as well.
Aye, Nico Price is really good as well. And that takes us up to the co-main. So obviously, we've got Joanne Collingwood fighting Jennifer Maia. So give me your thoughts on the opponent first of all. I'll let just whoever wants to jump in first.
On you go, James.
I think Joanne's going to be at a physical disadvantage where I think Maya's a bit bigger, but maybe a wee bit stronger, but she's not really that, she's not that fast. I think a big factor in this is going to be the fact it's in the apex in that small cage. Means that they might end up grappling a wee bit more than they would in the big cage. But to be honest, Joanne should be far too much for her. Like, she's just, if her head's right and stuff like that, she should be levels above her, and she should put on a bit of a clinic, I think, and just dispatch her. I know she was getting a bit of flack for taking the fight when she had that title fight guaranteed and the risk and stuff, but she's probably in a situation where if she doesn't fight, she doesn't get paid. She's getting no money. She needs to be fighting. And all great fighters will do that, will take a risk. So I don't think it's that big a risk, to be honest. I think if she turns up and demonstrates what she's capable of, she should take her out, or maybe with strikes, or at least outpoint her the 15 minutes, because the girl's relatively tough. The only risk would be maybe getting took down and possibly submitted, but she seems to be doing better with that more recently, so I think she'll win. I don't think it'll be a great fight, it'll be pretty scrappy and stuff, but I think she'll come out and she'll put a bit of clinic on her and just beat her.
Is there something to be said about not wanting to stay out of the cage that long before taking a big time out and then jumping in against obviously Shevchenko, the champion? Is there maybe that playing into it as well? Want to get in there and get some time?
I think so, man. I think the golfing class between all those other girls and then Shevchenko is massive. Like, I think she edged Andrea Lee in her last fight, and to go for that to Shevchenko's is like playing like third division football and then turning up and playing in the Premier League. And I think just getting it, and she's best when she's active. Joanne, when she was coming up until 18 or something, like she started MMA, and within 2 years she was fighting in America, and she was ranked number 2 in the world. Do you know what I mean? But because she was active, and she was taking fights that nobody else wanted. She fought in India against that Ukrainian girl that nobody wanted to fight. She took fights in Invicta that some of the other girls didn't fight and stuff like that. And I think if she's active, she's better. When she has the big gaps and stuff, especially at her age now, she's getting on a wee bit. It's not doing her any advantage. So I think having just a run out against a girl that she should beat, but she'll maybe have some problems and adversity to overcome, but she should beat her. I think it'll be a good thing for her. The problem is, stylistically, it's not the best tune-up fight for Shevchenko, because they couldn't be much different, to be fair. She'd be better getting a tune-up fight with another girl who can kickbox, like maybe they can cause her some problems on the feet, and that'll stand there and move right and stuff like that, as opposed to this girl who's probably going to try and brawl her and drag her into a grappling match.
I think, like you say, the problem for any girl in that division is, unfortunately, Shevchenko just at the minute looks unbeatable, but as we've seen in the past, we've had champions who look unbeatable up until that point to lose, but
they have to go at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think as well, Kieran?
I think very similar to what James was saying. Like, I think Maya's like a kind of like tough, maybe bigger, rugged, grappling type fight she's going to need to turn this into. The smaller cage at the apex will probably make a difference. It takes a kind of, might take a bit of Joanne's movement and stuff away. I think it could be a kind of tough fight to watch, possibly, because I think it could be turning a bit scrappy. I think Joanne should probably just be a bit too clean and clinical. And probably win all. I can't see there being a stoppage in this fight, and probably see it going to points. I reckon Joanne might kind of nick every round in a scrappy-ish affair.
There was a point where, and she's abandoned this recently, where Joanne would have done her in the clinch. She'd have got her in the clinch and kneed and elbowed her to bits, and it's like she's not done that in a long time. She was known for that in Invicta. Girls would shoot on them. She would catch an underhook, an overhook, or double underhook, pull them up, right any like variation of the tie clinch with the necktie and the bicep, and she would just go to work with knees and elbows. And this kind of girl's tailor-made for that, but I don't know. I've not seen that fair and aware. I don't know. I don't think she trains that so much. The style of Thai boxing in America is completely different to the one she was training here. She was known for being a clincher here. She was really good on the clinch. She won her world title on the clinch, and she caused massive problems for all those girls at Invicta in the clinch. And it's just, she's almost abandoned it now for this. But I'm a boxer now. I'm going to stand and throw boxing and use my weak leg. But if she's smart, that she could do some damage in the clinch with this girl, because the girl will be happy at that range with her because she's not getting punched and kicked. But she could chew her up with knees and elbows in there.
Yeah. I guess that takes us on then to the main events. We'll get Derek Brunson. He's obviously the gentleman he's fighting. Ronda Rousey's his manager. A lot of hype behind this guy, Edmund Shahbazyan. A lot of hype behind him, and for what we've seen of him so far, he's looked really good. Step him up. He's going to have a tough test in Derek Brunson. How do you see it going?
I feel Shahbazyan's looked good so far, and you're probably backing him to win this fight. But Brunson's another guy. Like, sometimes you don't know what you're going to get out of him. Sometimes it can be quite a kind of just like a mellow fella, and other times he's very explosive and is kind of pulling off like good stoppages. So like, it's a hard one to call in because Shahbazyan's untested and you don't really know what you're going to get out of Brunson. So it's a tough fight to call, but probably just I'd lean towards Shahbazyan.
I think it's probably a smart fight for Shahbazyan as well for him to be tested against Brunson, because it is a difficult test. And if it's one he can pass, then you've got to look up and say, right, this guy may be a contender.
The test is the right word there, man. This is it. It's like that's his prospect test. Is he an actual legit prospect, or is he just another guy? And if he gets past Brunson, then he's probably going to be thinking about guys like Till and stuff like that coming on. But again, Brunson's he can be a hit or a miss. Like you watch him, you go watch a couple of his fights. You watch his fight with Robert Whittaker, the two of them just went absolute bonkers at each other, had like a pub fight. And then other times you watch him and he looks quite clinical and methodical. So a lot it'll be on what version of Brunson turns up. I think for the division and everyone else, it would be good if Shahbazyan wins, just to keep the hype. And this young kind of prospect and stuff. And I hope he does well, because he's fun to watch, that kid.
Yeah, it just adds that fresh blood into the division as well, doesn't it? Because Brunson's been about for a while. I remember he fought Romero, and I think he hit Romero. Did he not hit him twice, quite clean with head kicks? And probably any other middleweight he knocks him out. But obviously Romero he's made for different stuff. That guy.
He's made from the Brazilian Bomba.
Well, he's coming through that Cuban Olympic program, but that's known to be an extremely clean program. That one, it's
all the communist countries are.
Aye. I mean, Russia's the perfect example of that. But look, it's a hard sale, this card. There's no two ways about it. This is a card for the proper hardcore fans, I would imagine. I
will absolutely not be watching this card. Not one fight on it. Maybe that's it. I'll see what's happening on the Saturday. No, I'll watch it. It'll be I always watch them in the mornings. I'm getting too old to stay up for them now. I can't hang anymore.
No.
It's the joys when you get kids in that. They late nights with the UFC sort of go out the window.
Yeah, first thing that goes. Aye,
absolutely. But so that about wraps us up for the show tonight. There's all I'd like to say. Thanks for jumping in at the last minute here and saving the show. The next time we'll make sure you've got preparation time and we just jump on. I think we'll get you back on once the Scottish gyms have opened and we can get a wee bit more of an upbeat conversation at the start of the show.
Just get me on any fight card Kevin Holland's on next time.
We certainly will. Well, listen, as always, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks guys for tuning in. If you could pop over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button and hit the notifications button to keep up to date with the show. And as always, follow the Higher Level Podcast and Higher Level Gym on social media.